Unwelcome among the stars. The story begins with humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of 12 alien species that controls most of known space. Earth sends its best diplomats and scientists aboard. The ship Unity to the Council's massive space station orbiting the planet. Nexus Prime. Captain Mark Stone leads the human delegation, accompanied by Dr. Lisa Reed, Earth's top xenobiologist, and Admiral Jack Torres, representing Earth's modest space fleet. They arrive with high hopes and carefully prepared gifts showcasing human culture, art, and scientific achievements. The council chambers are vast and intimidating. Representatives from various alien species sit in judgment, the tall, crystalline Vex with their harmonic voices, the insectoid Thok, who communicate through scent, the gaseous Neem who float in containment suits, and others. At the center sits High Councilor Vale, a being of pure energy contained within a metallic shell. The humans present their case for membership with passion and dignity. They share Earth's history, its struggles, and its achievements. They demonstrate human ingenuity, creativity, and their desire for peaceful cooperation among the stars. But the Council's response is cold and swift. High Councilor Vel speaks for all. Humanity is too young, too aggressive, too unpredictable. Your species wages war upon itself. You destroy your own planet. You are not ready for the responsibilities of galactic citizenship. The Vex representative adds with musical tones. Your emotions make you unstable. Logic must rule in space, not feeling. Despite Captain Stone's attempts to argue that human passion and determination are strengths, not weaknesses, the vote is unanimous. Humanity is rejected and banned from Council space. Earth is marked as a quarantine zone. Any human ship found beyond their solar system will be destroyed without warning. The human delegation returns to Earth in shame and anger. The rejection burns deep, especially knowing that species like the warlike Rock were accepted into the Council centuries ago. As they approach Earth, Dr. Reed makes a quiet observation that will prove prophetic. They think our emotions make us weak. They have no idea what humans can accomplish when we're truly motivated. The part ends with humanity turning inward, focusing on their own development, nursing their wounded pride, and beginning to plan not just for survival, but for the day when they would prove the Council wrong. Asterisk, building in the shadows. 50 years pass. Earth has changed dramatically. The rejection by the Galactic Council sparked something unexpected: unity. For the first time in human history, the entire species worked toward a single goal, proving they belonged among the stars. General Mike Davis now leads Earth's military forces. Dr. Anna Scott heads the Global Science Consortium. President Tom Wilson coordinates the planet's resources with efficiency the Council never expected from emotional humans. Earth's technology has advanced in leaps and bounds. Human engineers, driven by determination and spite, have developed faster-than-light travel that doesn't rely on Council technology. They've built massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts and on the dark side of the moon. Most importantly, they've learned to work together. The key breakthrough comes from studying captured Council technology from ancient crash sites. Humans don't just copy, they improve. Their ships are faster, their weapons more efficient, their shields stronger. What the Council sees as human unpredictability, Earth scientists use as creative problem-solving. Meanwhile, Earth sends out secret scout ships beyond the solar system. These missions, led by brave volunteers like Commander Jane Parker and Captain Bob Chun, map Council territory and study alien weaknesses. They discover something the Council never expected. Many species within Council space are unhappy with their rulers. The reptilian Zek are tired of paying heavy taxes to the Council. The plant-like Moor feel oppressed by Council environmental policies. Even some Vex question whether the Council's rigid structure allows for true progress. Dr. Scott makes contact with these dissatisfied groups through secret channels. She doesn't offer immediate alliance. Instead, she simply listens and learns. Humans excel at understanding others' perspectives, something the emotionally distant Council members struggle with. Back on Earth, massive training programs prepare millions of humans for space combat and diplomacy. Unlike Council species who specialize in single roles, humans train for everything. A single human ship captain can fight, negotiate, repair technology, and adapt to unexpected situations. The part climaxes when a Council patrol discovers one of Earth's hidden bases on an asteroid near Jupiter. Instead of fleeing, the humans disable the Council ship and capture the crew. 3. Thok warriors who expected easy victory over primitive humans. The captured aliens are treated well-fed and even entertained. When they're eventually released with their repaired ship, they carry back disturbing news to the Council. Humans are far more advanced than anyone believed, and they're not the savage species the Council remembered. High Counselor Vel dismisses the reports as impossible, but some Council members begin to worry. The part ends with Earth's leaders making their final decision. It's time to announce their return to the galaxy. Humanity rises. The day arrives when Earth reveals itself to the galaxy. A massive human fleet, led by Admiral Sarakim, aboard the flagship Defiance, jumps into the Nexus Prime system. The ships are sleek, powerful, and completely unknown to Council databases. The Council's immediate response is outrage and fear. High Counselor Vel demands the humans leave immediately or face destruction. A Council fleet, confident in their superior numbers and established technology, moves to surround the human ships. Admiral Kim's response is broadcast across all Council channels. 75 years ago, you cast us out. You called us unworthy, too emotional, too dangerous for galactic society. Today, we return not seeking your approval, but announcing our presence. Earth claims its rightful place among the stars. The first battle is brief and shocking. Council. Weapons barely scratch human shields, while human weapons tear through Council defenses like paper. The human ships move with impossible coordination, not because they're emotionless like the Council expected, but because human emotions like loyalty and trust create perfect teamwork. Captain Dave Miller, commanding the destroyer Vengeance, disables 3 Council ships without destroying them. This mercy confuses the Council forces. They expected savage humans to kill without restraint, but instead find opponents who fight with precision and honor. Dr. Emma Taylor, now Earth's chief diplomat, opens communications with individual Council species during the battle. Her message is simple. We don't seek to rule you. We seek to free you from rulers who fear progress and change. The battle ends when Admiral Kim's fleet surrounds the Council's command station. Instead of destroying it, she demands a formal meeting. The Council, faced with clear defeat, has no choice but to agree. In the Council chambers where humans were once rejected, Admiral Kim and Dr. Taylor present Earth's new reality. Humans have not only survived their exile, but thrived. They've developed technology the Council cannot match, formed alliances the Council never suspected, and grown into exactly the spacefaring civilization they were denied the chance to become. Most shocking revelation comes when representatives from a dozen Council member species announce their support for humanity. The Zek, Moore, and others have been secretly working with Earth, sharing information and resources. They're tired of the Council's rigid control and see humans as potential liberators. High Counselor Vel, faced with rebellion from within and military defeat from without, makes a desperate offer. Humanity can join the Council as equals. All past grievances forgotten. Dr. Taylor's response echoes through the chamber. You misunderstand our position. We're not here to join your Council. We're here to replace it. The part ends with several Council species formally withdrawing their membership to join Earth's new alliance. The old order is crumbling, and humanity stands at the center of a new galactic civilization built on cooperation rather than domination. Asterisk. Empire of Hearts. 6 months after the confrontation at Nexus Prime, the galaxy has transformed. Earth's alliance, calling itself the Free Worlds Coalition, now includes over 20 species. The old Galactic Council has fractured, with only 4 species remaining loyal to High Counselor VEL. President Lisa Chun, elected as the coalition's first leader, establishes the new government on a mobile space city called New Horizon. Unlike the Council's rigid hierarchy, the coalition operates on principles of mutual respect and shared decision-making, concepts that seemed impossible to the emotion-fearing Council. The coalition's success stems from humanity's greatest strength, their ability to understand and work with different types of beings. Where the Council imposed uniform rules across all species, humans adapt their approach to each member's unique needs and culture. Commander Rick Stone leads the coalition fleet in protecting new member worlds from Council attacks. The remaining Council forces, desperate to maintain power, have become increasingly aggressive. But every battle proves the same point. Unified, diverse forces fighting for freedom consistently defeat homogeneous forces fighting for control. Turning point comes when the plant-like Moor reveal a secret they've hidden for centuries. Their homeworld contains ancient technology from a long-dead civilization, weapons and shields far beyond even human achievements. They offer this technology freely to the coalition, something they never would have done for the demanding Council. Dr. Alex Reed, studying the ancient tech, makes a startling discovery. The extinct civilization fell because they became too rigid, too controlling, too afraid of change, exactly like the current Council. Their final records warn of the dangers of suppressing emotional species and diversity. Meanwhile, on the Council's remaining worlds, populations begin to rebel. The rigid Vex, despite their logical nature, start questioning whether pure logic, without emotion, leads to true wisdom. Even some Thok, the most warlike species, begin to see humans not as enemies, but as worthy opponents who fight with honor. The climax comes when High Counselor Vel, in desperation, attempts to use a planet killer weapon against Earth itself. The attack fails when coalition ships, warned by Vex defectors, intercept the weapon. But the attempt to destroy humanity's homeworld finally turns even moderate Council species against Vel, the Ancient Eternal, the oldest species in the galaxy, who had remained neutral for millennia, finally speak. Their message is simple. In all our years watching civilizations rise and fall, we have learned that those who suppress others' growth ultimately destroy themselves. The Council's time has ended. Let the new voices be heard. With the Eternal's blessing, dozens of remaining Council worlds declare independence. The coalition doesn't conquer them. Instead, it offers them partnership, aid, and the freedom to develop their own cultures without oppression. The part ends with High Counselor Vel, abandoned by nearly all followers, making one final broadcast. You have not won, humans. You have simply delayed the inevitable. Order will return to the galaxy. But his words fall on deaf ears across space, filled with species celebrating their newfound freedom. Asterisk. Guardians of the Galaxy. 2 years later. The galaxy is unrecognizable. The Free Worlds Coalition has grown to include nearly every known species. Trade flows freely between worlds, cultures mix and learn from each other, and new technologies emerge from collaborative research that would have been impossible under Council rule. Admiral Jake Morrison commands the Coalition Defense Fleet, but his ships rarely see combat. The old Council's remnants have either joined the Coalition or retreated to the galaxy's outer edges. Peace, backed by strength and maintained by cooperation, has replaced the enforced order of the past. On Earth, now recognized as the Coalition's founding world, Visitors from across the galaxy come to study human culture. They want to understand how one species could unite so many others through emotion and empathy, rather than force and fear. Dr. Maria Santos, leading the Galaxy Cultural Exchange Program, welcomes delegations daily. Former enemies like reformed Thok warriors work alongside human teachers, showing young beings from all species that cooperation creates more than competition ever could. The greatest symbol of change stands in orbit around Earth, New Unity Station, built cooperatively by all coalition species. Its design reflects contributions from every member culture, creating something beautiful that no single species could have imagined alone. President Shun, preparing to step down after her term, reflects on humanity's journey from galactic outcasts to the foundation of a new civilization. The species once deemed too emotional to join, galactic society has become the emotional heart that holds the galaxy together. The former council worlds have transformed as well. The Vex now compose music that incorporates emotion alongside logic. The Thok have developed honor codes that value protection over conquest. Even the gaseous Neem have learned to express feelings they never knew they possessed. But challenges remain. High Counselor Vel, from his exile in dark space, continues to plot return. Unknown threats from other galaxies have been detected at the edges of explored space. The Coalition must remain strong to protect the freedom it has built. Captain Amy Davis, leading exploration missions beyond known space, discovers evidence of other galactic civilizations. Some appear friendly, others potentially hostile. Humanity's greatest test may still lie ahead, not just protecting their own galaxy, potentially helping to free others from the same rigid thinking that once dominated their own. The story concludes at the 5th anniversary celebration of the Coalition's founding. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gather on New Unity Station. The ceremony is not about Earth's victory over the Council, but about what all species have accomplished together. As fireworks explode in patterns representing each member culture, President Shun delivers the closing address. We were cast out because they feared our emotions would make us weak. Instead, our emotions made us strong enough to unite a galaxy. We were rejected because they thought we were too different. Instead, our differences taught us to celebrate everyone's uniqueness. The final scene shows children from dozens of species playing together in the station's gardens. Vex crystalline younglings harmonizing with human children. Thok larvae learning cooperation instead of combat. More saplings growing alongside Earth flowers. This new generation will know only a galaxy where diversity is celebrated, where cooperation triumphs over control, and where being different is seen as a gift rather than a threat. The story ends with a message, broadcast across the galaxy. This is Earth, speaking for the Free Worlds Coalition. To any civilizations beyond our borders, we are here, we are united, and we welcome you to join us in building a future where every voice matters. The stars themselves seem to sparkle a little brighter, as if approving of the new dawn humanity has brought to the galaxy. Asterisk.